The Discovery, the alien research vessel. Kareth drifted silently beyond the orbit of Mars, its scanners locked on the blue world below. For centuries, the galactic community had dismissed Earth as unremarkable, a fragile cradle of life clinging to the edge of a spiral arm. Only in the last few decades had humanity advanced far enough to attract attention. At first, the Council of Stars regarded humans with mild curiosity, another species that had climbed out of their gravity well and pointed telescopes at the heavens. But curiosity turned to alarm when the Kareth's scientists began examining human biology. The mission was simple: collect samples, study their physiology, and determine their classification among galactic life. No one expected the discovery that would follow. Inside the sterile laboratory chamber, Dr. Ryalth, a pale-skinned Sarathi scientist, stared at a vial of human blood. Its red shimmer under the starlight projector unsettled him. He had studied countless life forms across dozens of star systems, yet nothing behaved like this fluid. Under spectroanalysis, the blood revealed the expected mix of iron, proteins, and plasma. But beneath that, hidden in the molecular patterns, something else lurked. A compound that refused to be catalogued by their instruments. When exposed to energy fields, the substance shifted, absorbing and releasing bursts of power. At first, Ralph thought it was contamination, a machine fault, a glitch in the scanner. But repeated trials only deepened the mystery. He summoned his team, and together they ran more tests. A drop of the blood was suspended in a containment field. As the energy intensified, the substance within the blood glowed, bending the field like gravity bends light. The instruments screamed warnings as the containment struggled to hold. The team quickly shut it down, fear heavy in the chamber. This was no accident. Something inside human blood interacted with raw energy in ways science could not explain. The scientists argued late into the cycle. Some believed it was a natural mutation, an evolutionary accident born from Earth's violent environment. Others feared it was engineered, perhaps a hidden weapon humans themselves did not understand. Dr. Ralph, though cautious, could not ignore the implications. If weaponized, this compound could destabilize reactors, shield generators, even stars themselves. It was, by every measure, the most dangerous substance they had ever seen. When the discovery was reported back to the Council, panic spread like wildfire. The message was clear. Within the veins of every human flowed a material capable of reshaping energy itself. Counselors demanded answers, fleets were quietly placed on alert, and whispers ran through the trade networks that humans were walking catastrophes. Yet on Earth, the people lived unaware of the storm brewing in the void above them. Dr. Ralph struggled with his conscience. He knew what would come. Empires hungry for power would see humanity not as partners but as resources, bodies to harvest, weapons to control. Already his superiors demanded he prepare more samples for transport to the capital. They wanted proof, and soon, experiments. Ralph hesitated, for in his long career he had never felt unease like this. These humans, flawed and reckless though they were, did not deserve to be feared as monsters. Yet he could not deny the truth of the data. The blood spoke for itself, and the galaxy was listening. Back on Earth, a single human lay in a medical bed, unaware that their routine blood donation had become the spark of galactic terror. Their simple act of charity now carried weight across the stars. The fate of humanity had shifted in a single drop, and though no one on the surface knew it yet, the universe would never look at them the same again. The discovery was only the beginning. The panic, the Council of Stars convened in the Grand Spire, a colossal chamber carved from living crystal that shimmered with the glow of 1,000 worlds. Delegates from across the galaxy crowded into their places, their voices a mix of fear and outrage. News of the human blood discovery had already spread faster than any official report could contain. Rumors twisted through the trade lanes, carried by smugglers and merchants who claimed to know the truth. Some said humans carried miniature black holes inside their bodies. Others swore their blood was a weapon designed to destroy civilizations. Whatever the story, one fact remained clear in every mind. Humanity was dangerous. High Chancellor Zyrel of the Veyari struck his staff against the floor to silence the chamber. His scaled features twitched with unease as he addressed the assembly. Reports had been confirmed, he declared. The substance found in human blood was unlike anything known to science. It destabilized energy fields, it corrupted reactors, it bent the rules of physics themselves. The chamber erupted again in fearful cries. Delegates demanded quarantine, some demanded extermination, and a few cautious voices called for diplomacy. But fear was louder than reason, and the tide of panic began to rise. In the outer colonies of the Zolth Dominion, freighters turned away from Earth space, fearing contamination. On the core routes, merchants raised prices for goods from the Sol system. Soldiers whispered that humans might bleed weapons onto battlefields, turning wars into firestorms. Entire fleets began patrolling the borders near human territory, claiming it was for safety, but every action dripped with suspicion. Back on the Kareth, Dr. Routh followed the council's debates with growing dread. He had never intended for this to spiral out of control, yet each word spoken in the chamber painted humans as a threat that had to be contained. His research logs were taken by military officials who now spoke of tactical applications. He overheard conversations about extracting blood directly from humans and using it to destabilize enemy power cores. The very idea chilled him. Meanwhile, whispers of the Council's fear reached Earth itself. A few intercepted transmissions revealed fragments of truth to human intelligence agencies. At first, officials thought it was disinformation, some kind of alien attempt to paint them as dangerous. But soon alien patrols appeared at the edge of the solar system, their warships watching with silent menace. Civilian communications were blocked, trade envoys disappeared, and Earth's diplomats found doors closing faster than they could knock. Humanity was being isolated by fear, caged not by iron but by suspicion. Ordinary humans noticed the shift as well. Starports that once welcomed alien traders grew quiet, the markets thin and empty. Pilots who traveled between colonies reported being shadowed by strange ships. Medical researchers puzzled over sudden interest in human biology, as alien probes monitored hospitals and blood banks. The public did not yet know the details, but they felt the weight of something dark pressing in from beyond the stars. Within the council chamber, the debate reached fever pitch. Some species demanded immediate military action, claiming humans were a walking doomsday. Others urged caution, fearing that provoking humanity might trigger the very disaster they sought to avoid. But through all the arguments, one truth bound them together. They were afraid. Afraid not of human weapons or fleets, but of the substance that pulsed in every human vein. A substance they could not understand, a force they could not control. Dr. Routh watched as fear hardened into policy. Sanctions were declared, restrictions enforced, and the first covert missions authorized to capture humans for further study. His heart sank as he realized the galaxy had chosen its path. Humanity would not be welcomed as equals but treated as a dangerous anomaly, an unpredictable force that had to be contained. The scientist who had uncovered the truth now found himself wishing he had never looked at that vial at all. And on Earth, the silence of the stars grew heavier with each passing night. Humanity did not yet realize it, but the galaxy no longer saw them as curious newcomers. They saw them as a threat, and the panic was only beginning. Human denial on Earth. The silence of the stars was unsettling, but governments and scientists struggled to understand what was truly happening because official communication channels with the Galactic Council had been cut without warning. Rumors filtered back through hidden channels and intercepted transmissions telling of a discovery that had frightened entire civilizations. According to the whispers, the blood of humans contained something no other species had ever seen before, a substance that reacted with energy fields as though it were alive. To most humans, these claims sounded absurd. Doctors and biologists across Earth dismissed them as propaganda or as mistakes in alien research. They explained to the public that human blood was simply red because of iron bound to hemoglobin, that there was nothing mysterious about it, and that if aliens thought otherwise, it was because they misunderstood biology. Newspapers carried headlines mocking the idea of dangerous blood, and comedians joked about people turning into living weapons whenever they got a paper cut. Yet behind the laughter, there was unease. Military intelligence briefings warned that alien fleets had been sighted lingering at the edge of the solar system. Satellite scans showed vessels with weapons primed but no attempt to communicate. Trade convoys that once brought exotic goods from alien markets had vanished, leaving Earth isolated. Ordinary citizens began to realize something was wrong. Why were hospitals suddenly receiving inquiries from unknown sources asking about blood storage facilities? Why were alien probes seen in orbit near medical research stations? And why did the Council, which once boasted about unity, now fall into silence whenever Earth sent a transmission? In a secure meeting room beneath Geneva, representatives from the leading nations gathered with human scientists to review the intercepted data. Projected on the wall were images of the alien laboratory logs stolen by intelligence networks. They showed the experiments of Dr. Routh and his team, tests where human blood samples bent containment fields and caused energy surges. The room was filled with disbelief and anger. Some scientists argued the aliens were fabricating results to justify isolating Earth. Others said it could be a misunderstanding of adrenaline, which in extreme situations flooded human blood and altered physical strength. A few whispered the unthinkable, that perhaps there was indeed something unique hidden within humanity's veins, something evolution had produced on Earth's violent world of storms, tectonic upheavals, and predators. The debate turned fierce. Military commanders demanded preparation in case the Council turned hostile. Diplomats pleaded for patience, urging dialogue and reassurance. Scientists insisted on further study, but none could agree on where the truth lay. Outside the room, the public grew restless. Protests erupted in cities as people demanded answers. Some carried signs declaring humans should embrace their strength if aliens feared it, while others begged for calm warning that fear would bring war. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the Council was not waiting. Secret orders had been issued to capture live humans for controlled experiments. Entire task forces stalked the edges of human territory, waiting for an opportunity. Unknown to Earth, a small colony ship bound for Proxima had already been intercepted, and its passengers taken. None of them returned. Back on Earth, denial persisted, but it was denial born of fear. People wanted to believe the aliens were wrong, that humanity was not some biological weapon disguised as flesh and blood. They wanted to believe life could continue as it had before, with trade and diplomacy and dreams of peace. Yet every day, the signs grew clearer. The galaxy had made its decision, and humanity's voice was being drowned out by the echo of its own blood. The denial would not last forever because the storm was moving closer, and soon Earth would be forced to confront the truth. Weaponization. Theories across the galaxy, whispers about the strange substance in human blood turned into deliberate plans. In hidden military laboratories far from the eyes of the public, experiments began that few dared to imagine. Generals and scientists gathered around containment chambers where vials of human blood pulsed with quiet menace. The theory was simple, yet terrifying. If the substance reacted violently to energy fields, then perhaps it could be turned into a weapon more devastating than any plasma cannon or antimatter warhead. In the Dominion of Zolth, engineers injected the blood into the core of a small reactor. At first, the readings were stable, the power flow even, the glow of the containment steady. Then the monitors screamed in alarm as the energy spiked far beyond safe levels. Within moments, the reactor tore itself apart, shredding the laboratory and vaporizing everyone inside. What survived was a cloud of unstable energy that persisted for hours, twisting space and damaging ships that approached too closely. The incident was officially classified as an accident, but every commander who saw the report knew the truth. Human blood was not only dangerous, it was uncontrollable. In another empire, the Akrathi Syndicate, scientists tested the substance by exposing it to weapon systems. They dripped a fraction of a drop into the focusing chamber of a particle lance. The moment the weapon fired, it ripped open a rift in the void that swallowed 3 escort ships before collapsing. The Syndicate called it a success, though the lives lost were never mentioned again. They believed if refined properly, human blood could serve as a catalyst for weapons capable of striking across entire fleets. Dr. Rolth followed these developments with horror. He received fragments of reports leaking from military research centers, and each one confirmed his fears. Instead of approaching humanity with caution and dialogue, the galaxy's powers were racing to exploit the very substance that terrified them. He warned his superiors that reckless experiments could destabilize entire systems, but his voice was drowned beneath the chorus of ambition. Every empire wanted the power for themselves, and none cared for the risks. Meanwhile, humanity began to notice the shadows lengthening around them. Colonies reported missing vessels. Miners vanished in the asteroid belts. Pilots spoke of strange encounters with ships that disabled their engines and boarded without warning. Survivors described being examined, blood drawn, then released with no explanation. Rumors spread quickly, and soon humanity realized they were being hunted not for territory or resources, but for what flowed within their veins. The fear of weaponization seeped into human society as well. Some military leaders on Earth asked their scientists if it was possible to control the substance themselves. If aliens believed human blood could destabilize reactors, why not test the theory? Research facilities in secret bunkers began experiments, but they too faced the same terrifying results. Small samples destabilized equipment, melted containment chambers, and threatened entire installations. It was a power too wild to hold, yet too important to ignore. Public opinion fractured. Some argued that humans should embrace the fear they inspired and use it to demand respect. Others insisted that pursuing such a path would only confirm the galaxy's darkest fears and lead to war. Governments issued statements of calm, but the tension beneath the surface grew. Humanity was caught between denial and temptation, between fear of what they were and desire to turn it into strength. Across the stars, the council chamber debated endlessly, but already alliances shifted. Some species demanded humans be eliminated before the weaponization reached full potential. Others sought to control humanity as slaves whose blood could fuel unstoppable arsenals. A few, rare and cautious, urged restraint, but their voices were fading in the roar of ambition. Humanity did not yet know it, but their place in the galaxy was no longer a question of diplomacy. It had become a question of survival. Theories of weaponization had turned into reality, and the race for control of human blood had begun. The Testin, the shadow of a dying star, the Zarn Empire carried out what they called the ultimate experiment. They had captured a group of human colonists taken from a transport ship bound for one of the outer settlements. The humans were confined within sterile cells, unaware of the true purpose of their captivity. For weeks, the Zarn scientists studied them, drawing blood, running endless scans, recording every heartbeat. Yet none of the data satisfied the generals who demanded proof that human blood could be turned into a weapon capable of shifting the balance of power across the galaxy. The day of the test arrived. A massive warship floated above a barren moon, its reactor humming with restrained energy. Within its core chamber, a small group of scientists prepared the procedure, while soldiers watched with uneasy silence. A single vial of human blood was carried into the heart of the reactor. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The machinery accepted the injection, power levels holding steady. But then alarms flared across every screen. Energy surged in violent waves, containment fields buckled, and the warship trembled as though caught in the grip of a storm. The captain ordered an emergency shutdown, but it was too late. The reactor erupted in a chain reaction of blinding force that tore the warship apart and scorched the barren moon into glass. Only fragments of the crew survived, their broken vessels drifting like ashes in space. News of the disaster should have ended the experiments, but instead it ignited a frenzy. Other empires took the catastrophe as proof of the weapon's power. They argued that the Zarn had failed not because the substance was useless, but because they lacked control. Across the galaxy, laboratories opened in secret, each one determined to master the volatile energy hidden in human blood. Some turned to refining the substance, stripping it from plasma, concentrating it into crystals that pulsed like living stars. Others tried to engineer synthetic copies, splicing human DNA into alien hosts to create hybrids that could produce the substance naturally. Few of these experiments survived, and those who did were broken beyond repair. For the humans taken by the Zarn, their fate became a grim warning. Word reached Earth through smugglers who had seen the wreckage and through spies who learned of the council debates. The colonists had been sacrificed in the name of science, their blood spilled to satisfy fear and greed. Anger rose across Earth and its colonies. No longer did people laugh at the idea of dangerous blood. They now understood the truth. The galaxy was hunting them not for what they had built or achieved, but for what they carried inside their very veins. Dr. Routh, now a reluctant figurehead among scientists, tried to warn the Council that such reckless tests threatened entire systems. He argued that the substance behaved like a force of nature, unpredictable and uncontrollable. But his warnings fell on deaf ears. Generals dreamed of fleets powered by human blood, of weapons that could shatter planets, of empires reborn through fear. Each experiment was a step deeper into madness, and Routh knew it was only a matter of time before a catastrophe consumed more than a single warship. On Earth, preparations began in secret. Governments realized that denial was no longer possible. If the galaxy believed human blood to be a weapon, then humanity had no choice but to prepare for war. Military labs hidden beneath mountains worked feverishly to understand the substance. Soldiers volunteered for dangerous trials, offering their blood to power small generators or to charge experimental weapons. Some trials ended in disaster, leaving scorched ruins where labs once stood, but others revealed glimpses of control, hints that humans themselves might learn to wield what the galaxy so feared. The stage was set. The galaxy viewed humanity as a resource to be harvested or a threat to be destroyed. Earth saw itself as a people pushed against the wall with no choice but to fight. The tests had revealed the truth to all sides. Human blood was power, dangerous, and untamed, but power nonetheless. And power was something no empire in the galaxy would ever ignore. Humanity strikes back. The first human warship designed with blood reactors did not rise from the shipyards of Earth, but from a hidden station, buried deep within the asteroid belt. The project was born in secrecy after the truth of the Zarn experiments reached human ears. Engineers worked under the highest security, guarded by fleets of drones and soldiers who swore never to speak of what they saw. They called the ship Resolute, and though its hull was forged from steel and composite like countless others, its heart was unlike anything ever seen before. Instead of a standard fusion drive, the Resolute carried chambers lined with containment fields, each one designed to interact with the volatile energy hidden within human blood. The first activation was a moment of terror and triumph. Volunteers stood nearby, their blood drawn and carefully refined by scientists who trembled as they injected the crimson liquid into the heart of the drive. For a long moment, nothing happened. The hum of machinery filling the chamber, tension thick enough to crush the breath from every chest. Then the readings surged. The reactor flared with power far beyond predicted limits, and the ship itself seemed to come alive. It moved with speed and agility no human vessel had ever achieved before, its engines roaring with a force that bent gravity around it. Humanity had done what the empires of the galaxy had failed to do. They had tamed the storm within their veins. When the Resolute launched into the void, its first mission was not conquest but defense. Alien fleets had tightened their patrols around the solar system, waiting for the order to strike or capture. The human warship appeared without warning, slipping from the asteroid belt like a predator from shadow. The alien captains scoffed at first, believing it to be a desperate show, another fragile vessel from a species that did not understand its place. But when they fired their weapons, the truth was revealed. Energy lances struck the Resolute only, to bend and collapse as the blood reactors absorbed the force and released it back in blinding waves. Alien shields shattered, hulls tore apart, and the patrol fleet was annihilated in minutes. Word spread across the stars faster than any council decree. The humans had turned their cursed blood into living fire. They were no longer victims or specimens. They were predators with weapons the galaxy could not counter. Fear that once pushed empires toward capture now twisted into terror of open war. Yet still the hunger for power did not fade. Some species argued that humanity must be destroyed before they mastered the substance fully. Others whispered of alliances, fearing that without humanity on their side, they would fall behind. On Earth, the victory brought both relief and dread. People cheered as the images of the destroyed alien fleet lit up the networks, but the cost was not forgotten. The volunteers, who had powered the Resolute, suffered greatly, their bodies strained by the process, some broken beyond healing. It was clear that harnessing their blood carried consequences, yet it was also clear that the galaxy would never leave them in peace again. Humanity faced a choice between survival through strength or extinction through hesitation. Dr. Ralph watched these events unfold with a heavy heart. From his station within the Council, he received reports of destroyed fleets and whispered warnings of human retaliation. He remembered the vial that had first revealed the truth and wondered if he had doomed the galaxy by uncovering it. Yet even he could not deny the awe he felt at humanity's resolve. In the face of fear and betrayal, they had done what no empire had managed. They had taken the very substance that condemned them and shaped it into a weapon of their own making. The Resolute was only the beginning. Shipyards in secret worked on more vessels, each one stronger than the last, each one a defiant message to the stars. Humanity had been hunted and tested, but now the hunters would learn that prey could fight. Back, the galaxy braced itself, for the war born from blood had only just begun. The reckoning. The galaxy had always believed itself to be vast and untouchable, a stage where empires rose and fell like tides while new species were welcomed under the careful watch of the Council. But when humanity broke free from its chains of fear, when the Resolute and its sister ships roared into the void, the order of the stars began to fracture. Every empire that had once dismissed Earth now turned its gaze toward the Sol system. But it was no longer with scorn or curiosity. It was with dread. Human warships emerged from the asteroid belt and from hidden bases on distant moons, each vessel pulsing with the terrible beauty of reactors powered by their own blood. Fleets sent to blockade Earth were torn apart in battles that lasted minutes, not days. Energy weapons designed to slice through dreadnoughts bent harmlessly against human ships only to be reflected back with tenfold fury. The galaxy had sought to cage humanity, but the cage had shattered and from within stepped a predator armed with the fire of its own veins. Within the Council chamber, voices that once thundered with authority now trembled. Some delegates called for extermination, demanding united fleets to descend upon Earth before humanity grew stronger. Others urged submission, suggesting that humanity be given a permanent seat of power and offered treaties to avoid destruction. But the truth was already plain to all. Humanity no longer asked for a seat at the table. They were the table. Every decision now revolved around their existence, every plan shaped by the shadow of their reactors. Dr. Ralph listened to the debates with sorrow and fascination. He had unleashed this storm the day he held that vial of blood. Yet he also saw something no other did. Humanity had not chosen this war. It was forced upon them by fear, by greed, by empires who could not see beyond their terror. And now the galaxy would pay the price. He whispered to himself that perhaps this was justice. Perhaps the predators had always been blind to the prey that walked among them. In the skies of a distant system, the full reckoning arrived. A coalition fleet of more than 1,000 ships gathered, united from empires that had sworn to destroy humanity. They launched their attack with confidence born of numbers, their weapons bright enough to light the void. But when the human fleet arrived, smaller, fewer, and outnumbered 10 to 1, the galaxy witnessed the truth that had been whispered since the first discovery. The human ships moved like storms, each strike fueled by the volatile substance that burned in their veins. Energy beams bent and broke, missiles detonated harmlessly, and the coalition's might crumbled in hours. From that day, the Council accepted the inevitable. Humanity could not be exterminated, nor could they be controlled. They were a force of nature, a species whose very biology carried the seeds of power beyond comprehension. Treaties were signed not out of goodwill, but out of fear. Borders shifted, alliances formed, and empires bent their knees to ensure survival. On Earth, humanity stood together for the first time in generations. Nations that once quarreled now united under a single purpose. They had been tested, hunted, and nearly destroyed, yet they had endured. From their blood came the fire that burned across the stars, but from their will came the choice of how to use it. And though many hungered for vengeance, humanity chose a different path. They would not become tyrants nor slaves. They would stand as equals, but equals with teeth, equals with fire, equals with the power to remind the galaxy that weakness was only an illusion. Dr. Ralph, old and weary, recorded his final words for the Council archives. He spoke of how the universe had laughed when humanity reached for the stars, how fear had turned that laughter into silence, and how silence had become terror. He ended with a truth no one could deny. The most dangerous substance in the universe was not found in weapons, nor in reactors, nor in the void of black holes. It was found in human blood, and with it came a lesson written in fire. Never again would the galaxy underestimate Earth. And so the story closed, not with extinction, not with conquest, but with a reckoning that reshaped the stars. The humans who had once been dismissed as fragile now stood as predators among predators, their blood a reminder of what it meant to endure, to adapt, and to rise. The galaxy had always believed it understood the boundaries of power. Stars burned, empires ruled, councils debated, and new civilizations were welcomed or ignored depending on their worth. But when humanity revealed what slept within their blood, every certainty shattered. No longer were humans seen as fragile beings stumbling into space. They had become storms wrapped in flesh, walking enigmas that could bend energy and shatter fleets. The alien empires gathered their greatest armadas, thousands of ships forged in fear, united not by trust, but by the desperate hope of survival. They swore to erase humanity before the substance in their veins turned the galaxy into chaos. The coalition believed numbers would crush this young species. Yet when the battle began, the void itself seemed to favor Earth. Human ships, smaller and fewer, glided through the darkness as if carried by unseen currents. Reactors powered by the essence of human blood lit their hulls in waves of crimson fire. Alien weapons struck and failed. Beams bent into arcs of harmless light, missiles crumbled into sparks as if the universe itself rejected their assault. The coalition scattered, its warlords screaming in disbelief. Empires that had once ruled for millennia saw their banners torn apart in hours. The void was filled with wreckage and silence, the silence of defeat, the silence of recognition. Humanity had not asked for war, but war had found them, and they had answered with the strength of their very existence. Back on Earth, the people who once laughed at the idea of dangerous blood now understood that survival came at a cost. Nations that had bickered over borders and politics stood together for the first time. They were no longer separate voices, but one species, united in defiance. Children looked to the stars not with fear but with pride, for they knew their blood carried the memory of this victory. In the grand chamber of the council, once filled with arrogance, the delegates now lowered their eyes when human envoys entered. They no longer spoke of containment or extermination. They spoke of treaties, alliances, and respect. They had no choice, for the balance of power had shifted, and at its center stood humanity. The species once mocked as reckless now carried the weight of the galaxy in their veins. Dr. Ralph, the scientist who had first seen the truth under the lens of his instruments, recorded his final words before retiring from the council. He said the universe had feared human blood, but the real lesson was not the substance itself. The real lesson was the will that lived within the species, a force that refused to break no matter the pressure, a resilience born from a world of storms, predators, and fire. He ended with the quiet confession that the galaxy should have welcomed them as allies before fear poisoned the stars. Humanity did not claim dominion over the galaxy. They did not enslave or conquer. Instead, they carved their place with unshakable resolve. They stood not above others but beside them, though with fire in their eyes and strength in their blood that warned the galaxy never to mistake them again. From that day forward, every empire remembered that the most dangerous substance in the universe was not a weapon created in a lab, not a force born in the heart of a star, but something that flowed through the veins of every human being. The galaxy would never forget, and humanity would never again be overlooked. The end.